memoirs, and you know that a memoir is a memory and a lesson that you've learned from that memory. Today, let's think a little bit about the lessons. As memoirists, we want to make sure that the lesson really gets to the heart of the matter. And so sometimes we can think of these memories and we have these first lessons that we've learned. Things like be careful when riding your bike, or it's fun to be with grandpa. But memoirs, they want to go below the surface. They want to think a little bit and kind of go deep with that lesson. Also, memoirs want to have a universal lesson. This means that it's a lesson that applies to other people besides themselves. Let's think today how you can take your memory and add a lesson that's a universal lesson and goes below the surface. It's important to understand that memoirs hinge on a universal lesson. These are things that are truth for a lot of people. So when you're writing your memoir, you think about your memory and you ask, so what? But there are some common topics that you can ask, so what about what? Here are some common topics that memoirists think about going below the surface: relationships and emotions. You might think about how your memory says something about honesty or empathy or integrity. Now, these are topics, and so you need to say something about the topic. How does your memory show courage? Or what does your memory say about overcoming challenges? So here's my notebook where I taped in the list of topics on one page, and then on the next page, I wrote the truth, life lessons go below the surface. And then I tried to push myself to go deeper. I drew some fish there, reminding myself that oftentimes, like when you're exploring in the water, the deeper you go, the more interesting things you see. And so I started with my first lesson, catching frogs is fun. And then I tried to push myself to go deeper. There at the end, I'm thinking about things like spending time in nature, becoming friends with my brother. There I'm getting closer to the heart of the matter. Now, this isn't easy work. You're really going to have to take some time to think about your memory, look at that list of topics in your notebook, and consider what is the deeper lesson? What's the universal lesson that my story, my memory, can share? After working on this during writing workshop, Parker and Dylan really got to the heart of finding a universal lesson. And so I asked them to share their story and share how they got to the universal lesson. Let's hear what they have to say.
One day I was playing outside with my sisters. We were playing a game called War. And I went looking for them, but I accidentally left my weapons at my base. And when I was looking for them, I heard like oohs and ahs. So I ran to my base, and I saw them looking at my weapons and everything. And I got pretty mad. So I picked up the closest thing to me, and I threw it. It bounced off the deck, went over my little sister, and hit my big sister in the eye. We had to rush her to MedStat because her eye was cut right here. And I felt so bad. And my first lesson was to never throw sticks. But the universal lesson is actually just let your anger go.
One day I went swimming, so I jumped into the lake. But when I hit the bottom, my foot really hurt. So I got out of the water. And then I looked at my foot and it was gushing out blood, so I screamed. Then my dad came and picked me up and took me to the golf cart and drove me home. Soon the whole neighborhood was surrounding me. Then my dad brought out hydrogen peroxide and a bucket full of water. Put my foot in the bucket full with water. Then my dad put the hydrogen peroxide in the bucket full of the water. After about 10 minutes having it in the bucket, I took it out, put a Band-Aid on it, and then I put on a sock and then rode my bike. My lesson was that to watch where you jump, but the universal lesson is that my neighbors are very supportive.
Parker and Dylan both took some time to think below the surface and get at the heart of the matter of what their memories were saying. They spent some time thinking, looking in their writer's notebook, and writing their drafts. Going back to that list of topics we taped in to really think about what does their memory say about life. Parker went from don't throw sticks to make sure you hold your anger together. And Dylan went from be careful while you jump to the neighborhood or the community pulls together to take care of one another. You can do this too. Today, take some time to think about the list of topics and push yourself to figure out what kind of universal truth or universal lesson your memory teaches. Happy writing, everyone.